Welcome to the guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Saturday, March the 5th, Ian Cameron. We've got our weekend warrior from Riga, Latvia, Vito Renus Vitalan, with us as he is every Saturday and Sunday on the show. And special guest, we put the alert, the bat signal, I guess you could say, out there on the show yesterday, saying anybody that watches and listens to the show wants to join us, help us break down the Saturday card, you're more than welcome. And our pal Nicholas Earl stepped up and decided to join us today. We welcome him to the show to help us on this Saturday card with 10 games. It is a huge slate. Nick, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it should be a fun, big slate of hockey tonight. So I definitely have a few spots I really like.
Definitely. Vito, how about you? How are you've been on a nice run this week? The bets have been going well for you. How are things?
Well, a little bit lucky, of course, yesterday maybe with Tampa getting that puck line done in 2 seconds. Stamkos scored, But yeah, well, luck is involved in this kind of business, So it is what it is. And the second game I played was Vegas Anaheim over 5.5. So also I cashed that one. So yeah, 209 in my regular bets. So yeah, off to today. One game I have already betted yesterday for today, and the line has already moved. So we're gonna get to that one. So yeah, I guess I'm ready to go.
We are ready to go, and definitely we've got a big slate, so let's get right to it. We're going to start with the St. Louis Blues taking on the New York Islanders as they continue this East Coast road trip and this New York swing, I guess you could say, of this East Coast road trip. Of course, they played the Rangers on Wednesday night, that TNT game earlier this week. We've got the Blues minus 145 road favorites in this game, which starts at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. 5.5 the total, pretty much across the board. I think it's a pretty tricky game when you look at it here, Blues and Islanders. The Blues going to go with Jordan Binnington, and a guy that's been struggling for the better part of this season, especially the last couple of months. But for the first time in probably a while, you would say, had a great start last time he was in net against the Flyers. He played much better in that game. We'll see if he can carry that forward here this afternoon against the Islanders. The Islanders victimized by a defense that's just not quite playing the way they have the last couple of years. I mean, the last couple of games, they've scored some goals. They've 3 in the last 2 games, but it's the defense and the goaltending that has let them down, and that's been the staple of success for the New York Islanders in the Barry Trotz era, which led to Barry Trotz after blowing that game against Vancouver. They had a 3-2 lead, lost 4-3. One of the great quotes, just one of the most hilarious things.
Legendary.
Turnovers are like ex-wives. They're going to cost you a lot. And that's exactly that's a great quote, and it's true. Turnovers led directly to multiple Vancouver Canuck goals when Vancouver came back to beat them 4-3 the other night. So, to be honest with you, I've been trying to find ways to bet the Islander games over the total because they're starting to score a little bit, which has been impressive, but the defense continues to struggle, goaltending inconsistent. And they've done this all without Matt Barzal in the scoring department. He's missed the last 3 games with a lower body injury here for the New York Islanders, and he will miss today's game as well. And to make matters worse, captain Anders Lee also out today for the New York Islanders. So a couple of key personnel losses for the Islanders going into this game. I don't know if I want to lay minus 145 in this spot with St. Louis or with Binnington. I want to see him play well again, to be quite honest, before I back him. The closest thing I came to betting in this game was over. 5.5 at a plus number, plus 100, plus 105. Considering the Blues can score a bit, considering that the Islanders have actually gone over in 5 of their last 6 games. But when Barry Trotz is throwing out the metaphors with ex-wives and turnovers, it means he's pissed off with the defensive play, and maybe there's a focus on that today for the Islanders. Play good defense. Let's get back to why we win. Let's get back to why we're successful, and that's being good in our own zone, manage the puck well, do all of those things. So that's what's going to keep me off the over. Lean over, but I'm going to pass on this one. Nicholas Earl's the resident Islander fan, so how can we not start with him first for this game? St. Louis, New York, Nick.
Yeah, the resident Islanders fans got nothing for this game. This one, nothing really. Now looking at the injuries a little bit more, though, seeing that Lee is out, seeing that Barzal remains out, Chara is not going to be available today. Not like Chara's been that great this year. I would actually lean towards the Blues in regulation in this spot around even money. The Blues have been a team I've been looking to back lately. I do have a 22-1 ticket for them to win both the division and the Stanley Cup. So I do think this team is a very well-rounded team. They got 3 lines of very good scorers. They got a competent 4th line. Goaltending is good. It's not great, but it's good. It's not going to sink them in the playoffs. I like this Blues team, but this is just I don't know. It's just a tough spot for me in this one here. I end up passing on it with a lean towards the Blues in regulation. No real feel towards the total as well in this game. So Blues and reg would be my lean, and that's just about it.
Blues in regulation, a lean for Nick here. By the way, I forgot to mention, I said Binnington's last start was against Philly. I forgot he started that Chicago game as well and got a shutout. So that was his most recent start. So that's 2 really good performances in a row for Binnington, where he's given up just 1 goal in the last 2 starts combined. Now, granted, those were the Blackhawks and the Flyers, who coincidentally enough are playing each other this afternoon, and we'll get to that game next up. But still, you could say, you can quibble about, you face the Blackhawks, you face the Flyers for these 2 games, but you got to start somewhere for a guy that was really struggling with his confidence, Binnington, and he has been better the last 2 starts. We'll see if he can keep it going today. Vito, what do you think, Blues Islanders?
Yeah, one thing about these all bronze games today, these are all first meetings for these clubs this season. That's something, you can look at. So very hard to predict games like those, They never have played this season yet. So, about this game, some notes. We all know that Blues are kind of slow starting team, right? And I also have heard that the Blues are not so good in branch. So I could expect maybe a Blues slow start in this game. But anyways, this is a stay away from me game because I think Blues should get a victory, but I think Islanders is also capable to win any club. This season, and they're not playing good, but they're capable to make competition to any club, I think. So, I think this is a stay away game for me here. From a player prop wise, I think Kyrou is something to watch. I think he's continuing to score every game together with I think Buchnev. No, that was not Buchnev.
Shen. Shen and Barbashev.
Passing play was beautiful with Shen, So Kyrou, I think something you can watch. From Islanders, well, Palmieri maybe something he's been scoring lately a little bit. So if you like Islanders, maybe Palmieri, Parisi, something like that. But
I agree. If you're going to bet one guy on the Islanders, Palmieri's been pretty solid lately for the New York Islanders. Back-to-back games with a goal, points in 3 straight games for Palmieri. And that group is who you target for the Blues. And I've talked about it. Braden Shen, can't go wrong. He's been very good lately. Barbashev has actually been good the last few games. And, of course, Kyrou goes without saying. So those are good targets for the St. Louis Blues. I was disappointed. I thought Buchnevich for sure would get on the board against his former team, the Rangers, the other night, but it didn't happen. Nevertheless, those are the Blues. I've mentioned them repeatedly, Shen and Kyrou and even Barbashev lately. Those would be one players I'd look at. If you're going to get involved in the props in this game, that's definitely the direction I'd go. Chicago, Philadelphia.
One guy mentioned also that Kyrou is on a 3rd line. I just want to add that he's on a 2nd power play. Both power plays are rolling for Blues, so it's easy. Both power plays are getting playing time. It's not like in different clubs, only one power play is playing. There's both power plays getting time, so it's a big chance he scores.
Yeah, and that's always key. You always want to make sure that, especially in the player prop market, you want to get players that are going to get minutes, that are going to be playing in many different situations. And definitely that's been the case with the Blues. They've got all these guys mostly contributing for the most part with the power play as well and playing power play time for the St. Louis Blues. Chicago, Philadelphia. This is ABC, national TV. Look, before the season, they probably thought this was going to be a pretty good hockey game. It hasn't turned out that way. Both teams have struggled mightily, disappointing seasons, but still an ABC game, nationally televised. We got the Flyers minus 120, home favorites here, 6 the total in this game. You would expect in terms of goaltending that we're going to see. I thought it was going to be Fleury and Hart. Instead, we got the polar opposite going into this game. We got Kevin Lankinen for Chicago, who just came back, made 1 start since returning from that absence he had, and he was lit up in that start that he made against New Jersey. 5 goals allowed on 36 shots. Good news is Chicago had the run support, so to speak, to steal a baseball term for Lankinen that night. 8-5 win over New Jersey, but it hasn't been good. The start before his absence back on January 22nd against Minnesota, he gave up 4 goals. So it's not a goalie we trust, and a 3.53 goals against average, 887 save percentage on the season is just not very good. And the last 5 starts for him, 3.99 goals against 886 save percentage. So definitely rough times for him in net. And then we've got Mr. Beach Ball for Philadelphia. Oh, did my eyes light up when I saw that on the marquee earlier today. Martin Jones, we call him Mr. Beach Ball because he quite honestly, quite often cannot stop one. A beach ball, that is. And here he is in net this afternoon for the Philadelphia Flyers. We've talked ad nauseum about the struggles of Jones, and it's not a great defensive team in front of him. This is not the 90s New Jersey Devils blue line in front of this guy to begin with. And then you add on the fact that he's a goalie that often struggles with his own confidence, and you can see why it's been tough times for him. Now, I'll cut him a little slack. The last time we saw him in his start, it was against St. Louis. They lost the game 4-1. But 2 of those goals were empty net goals for St. Louis. He only actually gave up 2 goals in that game. So it was a little better performance. But prior to that, 4 to Carolina allowed, 4 to Washington, 4 to the Islanders, 4 to Buffalo, 3 to the Islanders, 3 to San Jose, 5 to LA. Well, you catch my drift. The majority of games we've seen Martin Jones give up 3 goals. This to me looks like pond hockey ready to happen here with these 2 teams. I like goals. I like over the total. 2 teams going nowhere. 2 teams playing for exercise. It is national TV, ABC. So I'd expect your Konechny's and your Giroux on the Philadelphia Flyers to step up here, have good games. Van Riemsdyk, Atkinson. I'd expect the best players to want to show something in a television game like this. Same with Kane, DeBrincat. On the other side. And by the way, DeBrincat definitely playing well right now for the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, got the overtime winner against the Edmonton Oilers, 4 points in the last 3 games. If you could find a way to maybe get DeBrincat over 1.5 points and you get a plus price on those over 1.5 points props on a lot of these players, you can get that with DeBrincat. I think that's a good way to look here. This should be a good points game for several Blackhawks against a guy like Martin Jones. And Philadelphia has often had trouble putting the puck in the net. That's been their big issue lately, but starting to see them come back to life a little bit. Maybe that Minnesota game, albeit against a struggling Cam Talbot, guys, was a way of Philadelphia starting to get some offensive confidence back as a team. I mean, 4 goals is at least a step in the right direction against a solid Minnesota Wild team. So I think we see goals aplenty. I like the over here in this game. No need to touch a side. I don't want to trust either of these teams to win the game. Just trust that they both find the back of the net early and often. Vito, what do you think here? Chicago, Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, this is one of the games which I found with my colleagues last night when we go through the slates. So yeah, we saw that both goalies are confirmed, Lankin and Jones. And yeah, well, Blackhawks play the next game as next day against the Tampa, I think. So yeah, it's Lankin in the net. So I understood that it's gonna be him. So yeah, I went straight away. It was at over 5.5. So I grabbed 5.5 there at -110. And I still think the 6 is also a way to go here. And easy as that, because look at these 2 teams. I mean, they have scorers. I mean, Kane, how long is he in the league? He can put the puck in the net. DeBrincat same. Taves is back. Kubalik, I mean, and for the Flyers, as Ian said, your Konechny's and Giroux, and who else is there? Well, there is many more guys. They will get a goals because look at how these guys, I mean, turn the puck over. Like guys like Brazard, like how you call it in the last name, Derek Brazard. For Flyers, he just turned the puck over against the Wilds in the last second when Wild tied the 2-2 before end of the first period. So I think these 2 teams will turn the puck a lot over today, and the scorers will have many chances to contribute here. The goalies are terrible, so yeah, hard to look any other way here as over. I think it should be like 5-5 game.
Yeah, it might be. This might be, jump in on an over like 7.5, 8.5, maybe an alternative total if you want to get really, really creative here in this game, because you could find some of these alternative totals. Like if you want to go really bold and say think about this, both teams get to 4 goals. If both teams get to 4 goals, you're going to cash an over 8.5. Obviously, it has to get to 9 because there's no ties. So someone's going to win 5-4 in overtime or shootout, even if both teams score 4. So over 8.5 in this game, you can find plus 375, plus 400 on that. I think that's worth a small sprinkle, to be quite honest with you, at that number. I could see both teams hitting 4 in this game. No question about that. We know Jones gives up 4. In a lot of games. Lankinen just gave up 5 against New Jersey in his last start. I think that over 8.5 plus 375 plus 400, a little alternative total sprinkle, worth a shot. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth there, because last night, or actually this morning, I did put a half a unit on over 7.5 at plus 295. So I do have that bet. So I also, yeah, when Vito is saying that we were looking over the slate yesterday. I'm part of that group as well. I got the over 5.5 at minus 105. My jaw dropped when I saw that. That was the line. And looking at what these two offenses have been doing, though, when you look at the expected goal numbers, Chicago offensively has gone under 3 expected goals for in 8 of their last 10 games, and it was 6 of the last 9 for Philly has gone under 3. But the one thing I think that can fix that is bad defenses and terrible goaltending. And I think that this is a spot here where you have 4-4, 5-4, something along those lines. Over 5.5, half unit play on the over 295 or the over 7.5 at 295, I think was a good look there. So I like goals galore in this game.
Yeah, I agree. It just feels like one of those games where when you see these two blue lines and they turn over the puck for fun, both of these blue lines, the Flyers and the Blackhawks. Look, the Edmonton, very, very bad loss for them against Chicago, but Chicago kept giving them the puck in great spots in that game. And Fleury was good, by the way, the other night against Edmonton, which is obviously is very capable of being good. Are you going to get those is Lankinen going to bail out Chicago's defense with those 10 Bell scoring chances like Fleury can? And not if you look at the numbers from Lankinen all season long and especially of late. So, we're liking goals. It looks like consensus here across the board. All right, Ottawa, Arizona next up. We've got Ottawa minus 130, minus 135 road favorites in this game. The total currently right now 5.5 shaded to the over in this game. This is an interesting matchup here because I'm not selling Arizona short anymore. We got to give this team a fair amount of credit for the competitiveness we're seeing. I give them credit for that. They've definitely been a team that hasn't been rolling over here. They've been better. They've been getting some goaltending lately. I did not expect Vamelka to play the way he did the other night against Colorado. That was stunning to me because there's a reason Wedgwood was getting most of the recent starts. He had been good. Vamelka had been struggling, and he goes in there and holds the Colorado Avalanche to just 1 goal. Very impressive in that 2-1 game. You know, you look at Arizona, just terrific in terms of how they've consistently been able to be competitive lately. You know, beat Vegas, beat Colorado. They had a lead in the third period against Winnipeg. Lost, but boy, right in that game as well. 3-2 against LA, 5-3 against LA, and one of those goals, I believe, was an empty netter, and then 4-3 loss at home to Tampa. So you go back to that Tampa game, and the last 7 games, Arizona's been right there, and they've had a chance in every game they've played. So not an easy team to go against here. Ottawa off a 3-0 shutout loss to the Florida Panthers. That's now 3 losses in a row for the Senators. They did get Josh Norris back, though, from injury in that game, which definitely should help their offense moving forward. When you look at who's going to be in net tonight for Arizona, it's back to Scott Wedgwood, who's been, pretty good in his last few games, no question. He did struggle a bit more against Winnipeg, couldn't hold the lead, but before that, you were looking at basically consistency and 2 goals or less allowed by Wedgwood. Prior to that Winnipeg game, he had allowed 2 goals or less in 4 of his last 5 starts. So he's played pretty well. We'll see if he can play well, keep Arizona in the game here in this one against the Ottawa Senators. I was kind of looking here maybe in this game. We'll see who's in net for Ottawa. I would expect it to be Murray. I was kind of looking at potentially in this game, especially with Arizona at home. They scored 2 against Colorado, but they scored 3 against Winnipeg, 3 against Vegas, 3 against Dallas, 3 against LA, 3 against Tampa Bay on home ice. The Coyote team total over kind of interests me in this game. It really does. I like, they're starting to find at least a little bit of offense, and that's all we need. We're talking about a bargain bin in terms of totals betting. Minus 135 on an over 2.5, is not that much. And we are starting to see them maybe find the net a little bit. Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Keller, of course, who's been very good. He's had a point in 13 of the last 15 games for the Arizona Coyotes. And certainly if you're going to look at one guy prop-wise for Arizona goal or points, Clayton Keller would be that player right now for them. So that's the way I would approach it. That's the bet I'm eyeing at the moment. Arizona team total over 2.5 here, minus 135. Rather than trusting them to win the game, because the one thing that is in play here, guys, because we've talked about this theme before with Arizona, off a win, they're dreadful. They're absolutely awful off a single win. Look at every recent win they had. They lost the next game. That has been a consistent pattern for the Arizona Coyotes, being unable to win 2 games in a row together. So I'd rather trust them to score 3 goals, which I think they can, rather than trust them to win the game, which is why I defer to the team total rather than the money line here with Arizona. Nick, what do you think here, Ottawa, Arizona?
Yeah, I was looking towards how you mentioned there with Arizona. You don't want to trust them to win the game. I was actually looking at the over 5.5 in this spot, but I don't want to trust the Senators to put up any goals right now. And this Senators defense has looked terrible. In their last game against Florida, I think this was the highest number I've seen all season, but they gave 7.09 expected goals against. I think that's the highest I've seen all season long when looking at expected goals. And Arizona has been playing better as of late. I read that game perfectly when they played Colorado. I had them plus 2.5, which was the easiest casher on the board. It felt like that night. My only regret was not sprinkling the plus 1.5 in the money line in that game. And this is an Arizona team that I think is similar to maybe a Detroit team where they can play spoiler to a few big teams this year in some games, like they have with Colorado. They've stolen 5 points from Colorado this year. Like that leads the NHL. I heard that stat at the end of the game. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I'm right on where you're looking there. I'm on the Coyotes team total over 2.5. I don't expect this team to win a game like that. And at plus 110, plus 115. Usually, when you want to back the Coyotes, you want a little bit better of a line than something like that. You're looking more for like plus 140, plus 150 when you're trying to back the Yotes, or plus 200, 250, 300, whatever. So I'm going to go with their team total over 2.5. I can see this being a 4-3 type of game. I can see this game going over. I just don't know if I can trust Ottawa to put up the goals. So I'm just going with Arizona's team total.
Arizona's team total over 2.5. Vito, what do you like here? Senators, Coyotes.
Yeah, from the rest factor, I was checking, guys. I think Yotes has a little bit more rest than Ottawa in this spot. So maybe a little bit you can look at Yotes. And yeah, because Ottawa's been traveling also a lot. Let me just check. And yeah, man, basically they're the same teams, more or less. I think both teams kind of stand a chance to win this game. I think Matt Murray is playing for Ottawa. He's been very great. And from the player prop wise, I think from the Yotes, definitely. I don't know, guys. I heard Keller, but Schmaltz. Do you mention Schmaltz? Schmaltz is something to look at. He's been scoring also a lot of goals. But all around, I'm not interested in this game, guys, at all, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a tricky game. I like I say, if I were to get involved, it's not my favorite game on the board, but like I say, I can make a case for Arizona's team total over 2.5 right now. There's some offensive punch, and you're right about the scheduling. It's not so much that Arizona or Ottawa has played a lot of games, but they played more on the road. And Arizona, they had a week off from the Winnipeg game, just about a week off. They went from a Sunday game against Winnipeg to Thursday against Colorado. So that was a good amount of days off for them. So Arizona should be fresh. They should be well rested. They should have a lot of energy here for this game hosting Ottawa. All right, Detroit, Florida. We've got the Panthers minus 380. Huge home favorites here. 6.5 the total here in this game. I mean, this looks to me like Florida was not happy with the way their defensive game was trending. And why would they? They gave up 6 to Nashville and they lost, 6 to Columbus and they lost, 4 to Edmonton and they lost. And they dominated Edmonton in terms of territorial play, being in the offensive zone, the scoring chances and the shots. But it seemed like every chance Edmonton got in that game, they found the back of the net. And that was definitely frustrating. Florida's like, well, wait a minute. Every chance we're giving up seems like it's going in. So we have to tighten things up. They did do that against Ottawa. It was a very, very good defensive effort. 18 shots is all they allowed. It was a very easy night for Bobrovsky in net. They shut out the Ottawa Senators 3-0. But do you trust them to be that good defensively 2 in a row? It's one thing to focus on it big time against a team that's kind of scuffling offensively like Ottawa. Can they be that way again tonight against the Detroit Red Wings? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Detroit coming off Tampa last night, 3-1 loss to the Lightning in that game. Valiant effort from the Red Wings, but they end up falling short. They're 3-6, by the way, the Detroit Red Wings on the second night of back-to-back games this year. And I remember mentioning this trend about Detroit from a total standpoint the last time they were on the second night of a back-to-back games. I remember I mentioned it. It was on this show. I said it. They've been terrific to the over. in the second of back-to-back situations. They're 8-1, the Detroit Red Wings, over the total in 9 games on the second night of back-to-back. So that's what we're dealing with here, obviously, after the Tampa Bay game last night. We'll see if this one leads to a little bit more of a higher scoring affair. We had Nedeljkovic in net last night for the Red Wings, so it makes me think Thomas Greiss will probably be your starter. He's projected right now. Bobrovsky for Florida has been confirmed in net for them. I like Mason Marchment here because, look, I say, and it's very good to invest in Marchment paper, as I like to say. Mason Marchment for the Florida Panthers scored the other night, is continuing to get more minutes, more responsibility, more trust from Andrew Brunette and the coaching staff. Why not? Because he keeps playing better and better for this team. I think that's probably where this value is in terms of player props in this game, is maybe looking at Marchment. I like the over, but keep in mind the juice is it's showing signs of maybe hitting 7 very soon. Like we're seeing 6.5 minus 140. I do think we're going to see more goals in this one than, say, we saw from Florida in their last game and from Detroit last night. I expected more goals than that in that 3-1 game with Elliott and with Elliott in net for the Lightning, especially. But I'd expect tonight we're going to see some goals, and I'm going to ride that 8-1 over trend with Detroit, second of back-to-back games. And I'm going to dare Florida to be that good defensively against Detroit tonight compared to the Ottawa game. Because part of me thinks Ottawa's just in a funk offensively, and that's kind of why Florida was so good at keeping the puck out the other night. So I like over 6.5 here, Detroit, Florida. Vito, Red Wings, Panthers.
Yeah, well, I also think this is kind of a Florida smash spot for the smashing point for the Detroit, because, yeah, well, first of all, this is a hard back-to-back. Both teams are good, Tampa and Florida. It's always hard, I think, to play on the road, the back-to-back like that. Plus, the first meeting between these two clubs ended 2-2 in a draw and in a shootout or overtime. That was a Florida's win. So I don't think Florida wants to do the same and go to the draw or the shootout or whatever this today. I think, and also they have lost Florida won the last game, but before that, Florida lost like 3 games in a row. So I don't think they can really afford to lose because Tampa has already passed them in the standings. It was all Florida. Now Tampa is first. So, yeah, I think kind of that's the battle of Miami, as I say, right? Or what? So I think, yeah, Florida will come out here and smash the Detroit today. But straight to the point, I don't see any value here on any kind of numbers. So I think this is one of the games which you should actually straight away play just live. So if you didn't place like puck line yesterday with Florida, which was at minus 115, then today it's no point to, I think, to place puck line at minus 150 or minus 140 or whatever is the price. So I think it's better now to wait live. It's always a chance the Red Wings score first, and then you have all the value you want, So I think this is one of the games where you should definitely wait and play it live. And from the player props, from Detroit, I think the same guys, Larkin, I think the only one, Raymond maybe.
Yeah.
And for Florida, at the moment, as you told, there's a lot of guys scoring. Marchand, Reinschmann, Hubert Obarkov, all of them are scoring. It's hard to guess, in Florida. But I think many guys will get on the board today for Florida. So you can take more than one player prop today for Florida, I think.
There's one other thing I'm probably going to look at in this game too is and I'm starting to bet this a lot more as well. And it's we picked our spots with it. It was pretty good. It was actually one of the bets I looked at with Devils Rangers last night. And knowing New Jersey's very good scoring early, keep betting that. By the way, either both teams to score first period or the Devils to score a goal in the first period. That continues to be very good. In terms of a bet since the All-Star break. Devils have scored in every first period since the All-Star break, but I think both teams can find the back of the net here in the first period. So I think the both teams to score plus 140 first period here with Detroit and Florida is a good way to go as well. Nick, what do you think here? Red Wings, Panthers.
Yeah, yesterday when we were looking at this slate, I had full intentions on taking the Panthers puck line because I saw that the money line was around minus 280. I was like, okay, that's not terrible. You can get the puck line around minus 110, minus 115. The line wasn't available to me because while Detroit was playing last night, my book doesn't put out lines for teams that don't that play the next day. I wake up this morning and it's at 380. I'm like, well, they've done a good job of getting me off this game because I'm not backing minus 155 puck line. I'm not laying minus 145 on over 6.5. I don't take 4.5 team totals. And this is a spot here where I wanted to bet Florida, but they have done a really good job of pricing me out of it. So this ended up being a complete stay away for me in this spot.
In this one with the Panthers and the Red Wings. We'll see how it goes in this one, but definitely keep in mind here with Detroit back-to-back situation for them, and that trend has been very strong with them too on the back-to-backs. We'll see if that continues that in terms of that over streak with them on the second night of back-to-back games for the Red Wings. All right, next up we got Vancouver and Toronto here in Toronto. This is Hockey Night in Canada matchup. Leafs minus 200. Home favorites minus 210 in some spots, 6.5 the total in this game. Toronto certainly is going to, I would think, bring a much stronger performance and effort. That was pretty much a debacle for them against the Buffalo Sabres Wednesday night, 5-1. They looked like they weren't even able to generate much offensive zone time or sustain pressure on the Buffalo Sabres of all teams. It was the most mystifying, head-scratching thing you could ever see, because you'd think most teams are able to forecheck the hell out of the Buffalo Sabres and force them into mistakes, and Toronto could barely keep the puck in the zone long enough, to get them running around. It was just one of those games where it looked like they were skating in quicksand, skating in mud, whatever you want to call it. That was Toronto in that game against Buffalo. It's about as bad as we've ever been all year, so you'd expect better from them here. For Vancouver, this is the end of a pretty long road trip for them. They've been on the road for a little bit of time now, since February 25th. That's when they departed following that 7-1 win against Calgary. This is going to be their fourth game. New York, New Jersey, the Islanders, and Toronto tonight. Now, they did have some games spread out. That's the nice thing. They had a couple of days off after the New Jersey game before playing the Islanders. But it's been a good road trip. They've won 2 of the 3. They're probably walking into an angry Toronto group. I mean, I could see this being a good spot here for the Toronto Maple Leafs in this game. And what's the one thing they're normally very good at? And that's bouncing back when they really play poorly the last game. I'm going to do a Toronto -0.5 plus 115 in the first period of this game. I think that's not a bad way to go, thinking that, hey, we got to have a good start tonight after what happened against the Sabres. I'd expect that. And they're rested as well. I like that as well for the Leafs. 2 days off after that loss to the Sabres. Now, they are going to be missing a couple people tonight. Andre Kosh is still out. Jake Muzzin's out. And it also looks like Rasmus Sandin won't play tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Although that was not a Rembrandt in terms of a performance defensively from Rasmus Sandin against Buffalo. In fact, he had a terrible night against the Buffalo Sabres. So it actually might be a good thing he's not able to play. He's going to be good, but he's always going to have those nights once in a while where he really, really struggles. And he had one of those nights against the Buffalo Sabres. So there's going to be some shakeups along the blue line. But they've got some depth back there. Liljegren, Dermott will be the third pair. Labushkin, Brody, and then, of course, Hall and Riley will be your top pair for the Leafs here tonight in this game. Now, they lost to Vancouver as well earlier this year, and Thatcher Demko stole the game, stood on his head, 50-plus saves he had. He's the reason Vancouver won that game the other night. So I like the Leafs here. They revenge for the loss to Vancouver, which Demko stole. Toronto was the better team that night. They're off a bad game against Buffalo. I'd expect a better game. So I'm going to go Toronto -0.5, plus 115 first period. Also Toronto in regulation, -140. I'm going to split it up between those two. And from a totals perspective, I think I could get there with the over here, just because the Canucks are just sailing over the total. Their defensive game's not been great. And even with Demko was in a zone when he played the Leafs a long time ago, several weeks ago. He's been a little bit more up and down lately, Demko. He's not been shutting the door completely. I think the Leafs will score a handful of goals tonight, bounce back mode for them. This is one night where I'd look at some Leaf props. I'd look at Matthews, who is, everybody's ready to just panic, hit the panic button. Oh, the world is coming to an end that Matthews hasn't scored in a couple games. But usually he doesn't go much longer than that in terms of not scoring. So this could be an Austin Matthews goal scorer prop over 1.5 points kind of night, and maybe even sprinkle on 2 or more goals. Usually when he busts out of a mini funk, he scores multiple goals in the same game. He does that a lot. So I could see that tonight for the Leafs in this one. But I think Toronto gets it done against Vancouver, and the game goes over. Vito, what do you think? Canucks, Leafs?
I guess I'm gonna be here with you, Ian, in this game, because I can make many cases why I like the Toronto today. And actually, in my book, I just now found out it's I was surprised. Like 10 minutes ago, I just betted actually Leafs at -110 in regulation. So that I found it a very great price, so I took it. And well, for me, I mean, Toronto is a little bit, I think, rested team here in this game. They're like 2 days off after losing to Sabres, something to shake off. They had a practice definitely after the Sabres game. They will not have any practices now since they're going to play all the time. So I think after the practice, they should come out today ready. Also, this is, as you mentioned, Ian, a revenge spot. I mean, when a goalie steals one game from you, there's not always like he doesn't steal the second game, So I think that's another thing why I like the Leafs here. And yeah, for Vancouver, I guess it's going to be the toughest game of the road trip because they have went through New Jersey, Rangers, and one more team. But I think this will be the most important game, obviously. And yeah, it's a hockey night in Canada. One more thing about this game, Wayne Simmons. This is the 1,000th game for him today. So another reason why the boys would like to get a win for him, I think, today. So yeah, everything leads me here to the Toronto. Well, another thing is that Bruins are catching now Toronto in the standings. Another way why Toronto I think should get a win today. So Toronto is one of the teams I think, yeah, which is hard to sometimes realize out what they're doing and whatever. But you can sometimes know that their team you can trust of a lose. You know that they can bring a performance. Of course, I don't like that there's defense is not so good. I mean, but yeah, Jack Campbell, everybody's telling now he's already bad goalie, Yeah, he had some few bad starts, I mean, but that's 82-game season. Not everyone can be Shesterkin and stand every game good, Even Shesterkin led out 6 goals against the Flames on the road. So, yeah, everyone has bad slumps. So I think, yeah, I'm on Toronto here in regulation, guys.
You're right about being able to find Toronto in regulation at a better price. -120, I'm seeing at some books. So you can get better than that -140. I'm going to shop around, see if I can get a better price. I haven't locked it in yet, but I will be on that Toronto in regulation and -120. And there's some better prices out there with that definitely are shop around. You'll maybe get a better price on that Leafs in regulation. That is the one thing that does concern me a little about the over tonight is that Jack Campbell starts have gone over the total. We've talked about that trend on this show, that a lot of his games have just found a way to fly over the total. It's been that way consistently, repeatedly. There's been a lot of Campbell starts that have gone over. But if there's ever a spot where he's going to rise up and look like the early season Jack Campbell, it's tonight. They've given him a week to hit the reset button mentally, take a rest, think about how things have been going. It hasn't been going as well for him. But he's back in net tonight for the first time since that crazy game in Detroit last Saturday, that 10-7 game that he ended up getting pulled from. So he could show up tonight. That would be the one issue. That would be the one thing that would scare you a little about the over. But you could also get 5-1, 6-1 in this kind of game or 6-2. I think Toronto's going to fill it out. I just got that sense that at the end of this road trip, you're going to see Vancouver give up some goals tonight against this Leaf team, and they'll capitalize on those. It's just a question of what do you get from Jack Campbell, who's been struggling, but we'll see if the week-long mental break that he's had helps him out. What do you think here, Nick? Vancouver, Toronto?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to trust Jack Campbell today and then also Thatcher Demko. This is not going to be the popular play or anything like that. I'm on the under 6.5 in this game at -105. Both these teams, if we look at their expected goal numbers, they're actually trending heavy under. 7 of the last 10 have gone under 6.5 for Vancouver. 9 straight have gone under for Toronto. I expect Toronto to play a little bit of a lower event hockey game here in this one. And especially after giving up 5 goals against Buffalo, I expect them to play much better defense in this spot here. We look at Vancouver in 7 straight games, their actual goal total that they have been going over with 9, 10, 7, 8, 7, 9, and 7. Yeah, all 7 of those games, the expected goal total for that one was 5 of the 7 were at least 2 goals lower than what it should have been. So this is a team I'm expecting some negative regression with when it comes to overs in Vancouver games. And I think this is a little bit higher of a number than we should have gotten today. This should have been maybe 6 rather than 6.5. So I'm on the under 6.5 in the spot here. And then don't look now. Vancouver is only 4 points behind behind Edmonton and behind Nashville for that last wildcard spot. This could be a team that flirts with a playoff spot potentially at the end of the season here. So keep an eye out on Vancouver. I think they're going to be a little bit of a sneaky team this year.
Absolutely. We'll see how Vancouver fares here tonight against a Leaf team that will obviously probably chomping at the bit to play a lot better. We'll see if they do that. We got an Islander goal here early in this Blues Islanders game, so 1-0 for the Islanders. And
That
yeah,
was a
Nick's
bad goal by Binnington from the angle. The goal was scored from the corner.
Yeah, it's a bad goal. So that's not good for Binnington. We're singing his praises. He's had 2 great starts in a row, and then he gives up a goal like that. That's not a good way to start your Saturday afternoon in the island if you're Jordan Binnington. But that's Jordan Binnington's season. He's had a lot of these situations where it gives you a couple of good games and then not so good the next time out. But you're right. I saw that on the replay, Vito. That's just an angle that the puck can't go in. It can't go in from that kind of angle. You got to be better than that there if you're Binnington. But nevertheless, they capitalize, and it's 1-0 for the Islanders. Yeah. All right, Boston and Columbus next up. We've got the Bruins minus 235 road favorites in this game. The total's 5.5, 6 across the board in this one. Oh, man alive, am I tempted to take Columbus here? I mean, this is a big number. I mean, my goodness, we're treating Columbus here on home ice like they're chopped liver. We're treating them like they're the dregs. They're garbage. They're not. I mean, they're not. I mean, are they great? No. But boy, I mean, we're talking about a huge price here in this game against the for them as home underdogs against the Bruins. Now, granted, they got some injuries still, but they're depth players for the most part that are out. Brendan Gaunce, and besides, they got Zach Werenski back last game on their blue line. I liked the resilience they showed against the LA Kings. And they got down 1-0. They bang, 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 3 quick goals in that game. And then, of course, the Kings rallied to tie it when they were down 3-1. They came back, tied it up 3-3 last night. I get it. It's back-to-back as well. That maybe the situation's playing into it as well, but it's back-to-back at home with no travel. It's Rick Nash night in Columbus, retiring his number and sending that number to the rafters tonight at Nationwide Arena in Columbus. I don't know if it's going to affect them negatively, positively. It could go either way with that. Sometimes you see the home team start slow in these spots. Although the Rangers, I remember on Lundqvist night, the first period was their best period, and then they were horrible after that. So it could go either way in that regard. Do they have a little bit of a hangover after the ceremony, or are they ready to play and they're taking the play to the opponent? That remains to be seen. What I know for Boston is, look, it's been a nice road trip for the Bruins. Give them credit. They bombed Boston, or they bombed LA 7-0, beat San Jose, beat Seattle, really only lost the Anaheim game in the final minute. That was a winnable game. And of course, they bounced back and took care of Vegas 5-2, depleted Vegas, but still a solid win on the road in a tough place to play. So really, last minute of that game against Anaheim, they're basically 1 minute away, essentially, from being a perfect 5-0 on this road trip, Boston. So they've had a very good road trip, but they return home to face the Kings after this. It's the end of the trip. It's not exactly the type of spot, especially when it's been a successful trip, that I view as a bet-on spot. Swayman's in net for the Bruins tonight. He has been solid lately, and that's the one thing that concerns me just a little bit. It's 5-0, 1.19 goals against average, .959 save percentage in his last 5 starts. He's been terrific, and he's led the Bruins to victory in all 5 of those games. Nevertheless, I'm going to do a small little piece of Columbus. It's just too big a number in this spot. But the Bruins at the end of a long, successful road trip. Columbus, it is back-to-back, but they have been pretty solid of late as well. They're only 2-5 after on the second night of back-to-back games, but I think it's kind of accounted for with what you're getting in this price. I ended up cashing several Columbus, or a couple, not several, but a couple Columbus goal scorer props last night. Laine and Bjorkstrand, I mentioned them on the show yesterday. I think definitely Laine and Bjorkstrand are your go-to goal scorer props again for Columbus. Bjorkstrand's on a great run. Patrick Laine has had the hot stick going for like 2 weeks now, if not longer. You could absolutely go with both of those from a prop standpoint to score or even points. I think they can find the back of the net. Swayman's been great, but this is kind of that long road trip fatigue spot, I think, for Boston tonight, where I could see the defense breaking down a little bit because you went through Seattle, San Jose, LA, Anaheim, all in the Pacific time zone, and Vegas, and now you're making this cross-country trip to Ohio for this game on a Saturday, turning around from playing Thursday. You know what I mean? It just feels like that team might make some mistakes defensively. turnovers, a little fatigue, a little physical fatigue, a little mental fatigue sets in potentially for the Bruins tonight, and maybe Columbus can take advantage of that. So I do definitely look toward Columbus for some kind of bet here. This is probably one of my dogs of the day for sure, plus 200, plus 215. Team total Columbus. I know it's not easy to do that with Swayman playing well, but I think the defense in front of him is going to make this a much more difficult game for Swayman. I think he's going to face a more high event game in terms of opposing scoring chances. I think he's going to probably face more high danger chances because I don't think the defense is going to be fresh in front of him tonight. I could see him having a tougher time tonight, Swayman, just because I think that defense, I could see them struggling against what's, let's be honest, a pretty good offensive team right now, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus is still sketchy defensively and goaltending, but boy, they can score goals. So Columbus money line, Columbus team total over, maybe even the full game over if you can find 5.5 as well, which is still out there. Nick, what do you think here? Boston, Columbus.
Yeah, this is a weird spot for, I think, both teams because we do have Columbus coming in off that back-to-back. I think it's a little bit better of a situational spot here for Columbus, even playing their second game in 2 days. Because when we look at what Boston's gone through here, they had that 5-1 win versus Colorado. Then they hit the road to Seattle, San Jose, LA, Anaheim, Vegas. And then instead of heading home after that West Coast trip, they make a stop in Columbus. That just like, I saw this game a few days ago and I'm like, that's kind of like a weird scheduling spot. Like, I don't know why they would put random Columbus game in Columbus at the end of that road trip. I feel like this should have been a spot where they should have been playing a home game today rather than a game in Columbus, or at least if you're going to schedule out a game, another game in out west, like in Arizona or something like that. Columbus, that's just weird in my opinion. But yeah, Columbus is at plus 213 on my book. Might make my card later. That team total is 2.5 at plus 105. That may make my card later. I feel like we're going to see a lot of barking dogs tonight. And I think this is definitely one of them. A nice home dog here with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I like the over 5.5 more than anything in this game. I got that at minus 120 yesterday. It's around minus 133 on my book now. I would still look at that. I feel like we see at least 6 goals in this spot, and 3 from Columbus I think is very reasonable in this game. Their offense has actually been pretty decent. They give up, I believe, the most shots on goal per game in the NHL, I've heard. So I can definitely see some goals on both sides here. Leaning toward Blue Jackets team total and money line, but for me, it's only the over 5.5 at this moment. I may add that later on, depending on how the day starts.
Yeah, for Columbus, it's 6 of the last 8 games where they have scored at least 3 goals. So 6 of the last 8 games for the Jackets, and you got that's pretty good numbers on your side there when you've got a team total that right now is over 2.5 at a plus price. In fact, it's not only over 2.5 for Columbus team total; it's actually a plus number attached to that. So it's great value in my opinion. And like I say, you're getting that value because Boston's rolling; they're playing better defense. Swayman is just in a zone right now, but I'm convinced you're going to see that defense just make some mistakes tonight. This has been a long road. And the East Coast travel from Vegas to Columbus after 4 games in that West Coast time zone, this is tricky. I've seen that, this kind of spot just jump up and bite teams many times in the past, and maybe it does here for Boston tonight. Vito, what do you think here? Bruins, Jackets.
Yeah, well, very not interested here to take Bruins because I think they're at their peak at the moment in a price. If you're talking about the price and the value, I think that's why it's now like minus 240 because they just had won like 5 games in a row, and that's it. They straight away are these big favorites. We're still talking about Brendan Carloy, the D, and a few other guys that they turn around the puck. And the expected goals also shows that the actually Bruins are getting a lot of chances. I think Bruins are controlling the game most of the times because their offense is actually doing very, very great in this road trip. Like this, the Brask, Bergeron, Marchand line, they are playing best hockey of the year, I think, at the moment. And the second line as well, Hall, Pasta, and also we saw just now Coyle Smith stepping up. So, yeah, the forwards are doing very great, but the D is still bad for this team at the moment. And I think, I think the only way how to go here it would be, I guess, Jackets on this price because, talking about the situational spot as well, Bruins are on this like 6th game on the road. It's definitely harder to travel all around the West than just play a back-to-back home game, So only way how to look here, I would say, yeah, it's Columbus Blue Jackets from the player prop wise. Ian mentioned it as well. I have actually the same guys, Bjorkstrand and Laine. And from Boston, well, how can you not look, I guess, at DeBrusk, right?
Yeah, DeBrusk. How did I forget to mention that? Thank you, Vito. How did I forget to mention that? Jake DeBrusk, obviously. Now, a couple games, I believe, in a row he hasn't scored, but he had the hat trick against LA. He's still being showcased in the top 6 on this Boston team. And at the price you're getting, still plus 300 in some spots. It's obviously, I think, still worth a bet. DeBrusk, Marchand, Pasternak. You can't say no to those two guys. They're playing great right now as well offensively. Those are the three: Pasta, Marchand, DeBrusk for sure. Boston with goal scoring props. So thank you, Vito, for mentioning that. That would be a travesty if I forgot to mention DeBrusk again. Goes without saying, he's always worth a look right now.
Yeah, I wanted to add, you guys, I have actually gotten down here and over. So I think the game could go over.
Yeah,
I do too. Yeah, especially 5.5. 5.5 with Columbus is cheap when it comes to totals, in my opinion. 5.5 with that team right now is just a little bit too low. What have we seen here for the most part? We've seen 7-7. We had a couple unders, but they were in a bad spot against Carolina. The Pittsburgh game, that should have went over. I still say that 3-2 game against Pittsburgh should have went over. There were a million chances. DeSmith was uncharacteristically great in that game against Columbus that night. And actually, he was not bad last night in the game against Carolina either, DeSmith. He's had a couple of decent starts now, but there should have been more than the 5 goals there. There were a lot of great chances, a couple posts as well in that Pittsburgh-Columbus game. So 5.5 to me is still very cheap when it comes to this total. So I definitely like it to go over. All right, next up, we've got Seattle and Washington. Washington minus 230, home favorites in this game, 5.5 the total. Both of these teams were struggling mightily, and they both got off the schneid in their last game. Seattle snapping a 7-game losing streak, beating Nashville 4-3 on TNT on Wednesday night, and Washington on Thursday night against Carolina. Very good Hurricanes team. It's their best game in a while. They snapped a 3-game losing streak, shutting out the Hurricanes 4-0 in that game. So not a surprise after that game. Peter Laviolette's rolling right back with Vitek Vanacek, and why not? You know, Samsonov's not been good. Phoenix Copley's not the answer. Vanacek's healthy again. He has had his own consistency flaws at times, but he delivered. He stepped up. I thought he was phenomenal against Carolina. That might be the best game he's played all year. Can he do it again for you? Obviously, it's worth the shot to start him again. If you're Peter Laviolette, see if he can be that good again. Chris Drieger getting the start here for the Kraken in this game for them. And look, against Nashville, 3 goals allowed, but they won. And I think that's kind of what Dave Hackstall's looking at. Yeah, he gave up 3 goals, but team played well in front of him. Won the game finally. Won a game finally. We're going to roll right back with Drieger here tonight in this game. So it's an interesting game. Obviously, 2 teams that needed a win desperately. They've got some confidence. I still think if I had to choose Washington maybe in this game in regulation, or maybe a Washington team total over, I'd look at, but it's probably going to be a game I stay off. It's just Washington is still, hats off to them, not only busting the losing streak, but doing it against a great Carolina team, but now still minus 230 and even regulation, not the value I like and not the price that I'm willing to trust a team like the Capitals in just yet. Let me see another good game from them. Is that asking too much? Let me see another good game from them tonight before I'm ready to buy into a potential turnaround or a spark from that win against Carolina. Nick, what do you think here? Seattle, Washington.
I am on the under 5.5 in this game. Both these teams have been playing under hockey. When we look at I like looking at the expected goals a lot. That's like one of the main metrics I use. And when we look at that, they're trending towards the unders. 7 of the last 10 have gone under 5.5 for Washington, 8 of the last 10 for Seattle. And don't look now, but Seattle, the results may not be 100% there, but it looks like they're playing much better as of late. And I think they're a live dog in this game. I think this is a spot here where plus 195, I'm saying dogs are barking tonight. I think that may make my card the Kraken here. Because one thing that I feel like I've had a decent read on this Kraken team, because I was looking at that Nashville game. And I said this on a couple of shows that I was on that day. I said, watch out, the Kraken are going to steal some coin tonight. And that's exactly what they went out and did. And this Kraken team, I have a feeling, could steal some coin again today. I like the Kraken here. I might bet them plus 195, but right now I'm going to go with the under. And I was also looking at Washington's team total under as well.
Seattle has played the San Jose game is really the game too, where they lost before they played Nashville, and they deserved better in that game, much better. They played a very good hockey game against San Jose, and they outplayed them. They carried the play. They didn't get the result to show for it, and they finally did against Nashville, where they played pretty well and got the win. So you're right. Underneath the surface, underneath the final scores and the scoreboard result, there's some better hockey the last 2 to 3 games that I've seen personally, just the eye test. The advanced numbers bear it out, but just from the eye test, watching Seattle these last couple of games, and I've seen a lot of their Nashville and San Jose games, these last 2, they're really possessing the puck a lot, all right? They're generating a lot. The puck's just not going in for them, and they're not giving up quite as much as they did earlier. They're finally starting to actually improve, I think, with that team defense that I thought was going to be their strength coming into the season. And it's taken a while for it to show up. It's been better lately. So you're seeing little signs of improvement for Seattle. So obviously a big sign of improvement for Washington, shutting out Carolina. So who can transmit that forward tonight is the big question here. That's why it's a tough game for me, and that's probably why I'm staying off it. I don't want to guess who's going to keep the momentum going. Vito, what do you think here? Seattle, Washington?
Yeah, well, last time the Kraken played Nashville, I'm not sure. Kraken played good or Nashville was very bad. What happened in that game, I'm not sure. But yeah, Kraken played some great hockey, and I mean, Capitals as well just now had a win, but they played very good against the Canes. I'm not sure if Canes were again bad or Capitals were good in that game. Capitals looked like they were ready for that game. But all around, this is a small revenge spot for Caps, definitely, since first meeting they lost in Seattle 2-5. So I think Caps would like to make amends about that since they meet only 2 times. But overall, yeah, I'm leaning Caps side here, but I have not placed the wagers. I don't think I also will go with Caps in regulation. I'm still not sure about that team. I just know we're fading that team all the time, past few weeks when they were losing, and now we're going to start to play them. Not sure yet. Want to see how they look. I mean, we saw a better power play a little bit with that Oshie back there, He made the screen for the goalie. He's also good on that one-timer from the middle. So if they can continue to roll here today, which is possible, I mean, maybe also in a power play, then I think the Caps will be back, and then we can look forward to maybe back Caps.
It's an interesting game because you got these 2 teams. We're trying to see who can get on a run, who can actually play 2 good games in a row, because it's not been easy for either of these teams to do that. Here's a fascinating game next up, because this is just all kinds of angles to look at here. Montreal and Edmonton. Edmonton minus 250, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. This is a classic price here, where if you're looking at, and I say this in every sport, and it's also true in hockey, if you're using full season stats and records to help you with your handicapping, you're doing it the wrong way. All right, I don't care full season what Montreal has done. What I'm looking at is the last 5-10 games with Montreal since the coaching change. This is a different hockey team, playing a lot better. The defense and the commitment to team defense has been better. Kind of got rocky defensively against Calgary, but look, you're playing the Flames. Flames weren't going to go away in that game. And could you have wanted better goaltending maybe from the Hamburglar? Yeah, there was one goal I thought he could have had in that game. But overall, their complete team game has been better since Marty St. Louis taken over. And they have played very good hockey. Other than a loss to the Jets, where, Jets were fired up beyond belief for that game, playing the Canadiens for the first time since getting swept by them in the playoffs last year. That's the only loss they've had in recent games under St. Louis. They've beaten some good teams during this mix, St. Louis, Toronto. It's been impressive to see from this Montreal Canadiens team. And I think there's residual money line value game in and game out with this team right now. And it's not like there's a great spot for Edmonton. They've been on the road forever. They're coming back home after being in Tampa, February 23rd, Florida, February 26th, Carolina, February 27th, Philly, March the 1st, and then a couple days ago in Chicago, they lose in overtime 4-3. So now they're back home. They've played a lot of games in a short period of time. They only have one single day in between returning home from Chicago and playing this game tonight back home against Montreal. It's a tricky spot for Edmonton. It really is. Montreal, this is kind of like the Calgary game, wash, rinse, repeat for me with this Montreal team. I'm going to look at a first period to get on the board for the Montreal Canadiens. And Mike Smith, by the way, in net for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. So when you look at that, that is a significant development. We know that Koskinen's been the better goalie lately, but I think, what you look at it, he needs a break. He started a lot on that last few games of that trip. He did make a very bad turnover with the puck that led to the Chicago third goal the other night. It was a tough turnover to happen to Koskinen. He's done that before. Maybe it's punishment for that. Who knows? But Jay Woodcroft's going to Mike Smith tonight. For me, this is Montreal in a bunch of different forms, kind of like the last game against Calgary. You could go with the first period plus a half, minus 130, sprinkle even on plus 170 money line. In that game, you could go with the team total over a half, minus 140, just to score a goal, over 0.5 Montreal in the first period. I've been doing that quite a bit lately as well. And probably a plus 1.5 full game puck line, which is only minus 115. And even a little sprinkle on the money line, which I did have against Calgary. I sprinkled a little on the plus 340 against Calgary, and I'm going to do that again here. I think as much as I've been wanting to back Edmonton with the coaching change, they've kind of leveled off. This is not a good scheduling situation. They've been on the road for well over a week, almost 2 weeks, playing a lot of games in a short period of time with only one day off in between the end of that trip and tonight against Montreal. It's tricky all around for this Oilers team, and they're laying a premium with them against a Montreal team that all they've done here the last few games is go 6-1 in their last 7 games, and the only loss was to Winnipeg in a charged up spot for the Jets. And they've shown that they can beat solid teams, Toronto, St. Louis, Calgary, in their last game during this stretch. Just an overlay, in my opinion, for Edmonton here. So Montreal in various forms for me, as I've just outlined. Nick, what do you think here, Montreal, Edmonton?
Yeah, originally for this game, it was a small lean towards the Canadiens. I didn't bet this, but you had me sold at Mike Smith. And laying minus 240 on Mike Smith is idiotic, I think. And I think that I'm going to have a Canadiens ticket at plus 215 sometime today. That is going to be something that makes my card. Maybe even that team total over at 2.5 at minus 115 is not a bad price either, especially with Mike Smith in that. Because I was expecting Mikko Koskinen. So, yeah, Canadiens, I think they're starting to play the way we expected them to do in the beginning of the season, because they were coming off that Stanley Cup appearance. And they've been obviously massively disappointing this year. Granted, they haven't had half their roster, or it feels like everybody on their roster has made the IR or the COVID list at some way, shape, or form this year. And they're still without their captain. They're still without their franchise goalie. I mean, this is a Canadiens team that's been dealt a 7-2 offsuit from the beginning of the season. So this is a Canadiens team that now they're starting to look better, and they're going to be a team that I'm going to look to ride a little bit here. So yeah, I'm probably gonna get onto the Canadiens plus 215. That's probably a bet I'm going to make. So that's where I'm looking in this game.
Yeah, Cole Caulfield to score. I mean, Nick Suzuki finally got on the board. That's not a bad couple of goal scorer prop options or points options as well. Anderson had a big game a few days. You can never count him out of maybe chipping in for Montreal. So spread the wealth. I don't know if I'd just go on one player, but Caulfield's certainly on that list, as Benjamin says in the chat. There's no question about that. Cole Caulfield's been one of the guys that's had new life in his game since Marty St. Louis took over behind the bench for the Montreal Canadiens. And yeah, it's just a tricky spot here a little bit for Montreal in this game. Now, Montembeault is in net, so the one concern is how is he going to play, because he got shelled against the Winnipeg Jets. It was ugly for Sam Montembeault in his last start. But you look at him recently, when he's had those really bad starts and that crooked number's gone up against him. He gave up 4 against Vegas. The next start, he gave up 2. He gave up 6 to Edmonton. That is a concern. The last time he faced Edmonton, it was in Montreal. It was 7-2, and it was ugly for Montembeault.
That was before St. Louis, though, right?
That's when they were playing that shit team.
You can toss that one out then.
That's kind of what I think, and that's part of why, as I said a minute ago, Nick, that throw out the full season numbers. It's a different Montreal team now. There's more confidence. But even after that bad start against Edmonton, January 29, he bounced back and he shut out, or did he shut out? Yeah, Washington. Or he gave up. No, he gave up 2 goals to Columbus in his next start after that 6 goals allowed to Edmonton. He gave up 5 to Buffalo, another rotten start. He gave up 2 the next game. He gave up 7 to Winnipeg last game. The point is, after the really bad starts, he's played a lot better in the next start. Hopefully that's the Samuel Montembeault that we get tonight. And it's going to be him for a period of time, because it looks like they were concerned that maybe Hammond's injury is significant. Actually, it's going to be a situation where now he's on IR. He is going to be obviously out for a long period of time. A lower body injury. They say this is not short term for Andrew Hammond, the Hamburglar. So just when he was getting everybody fired up again, winning multiple starts, including the Calgary game, he gets injured. Very unfortunate development, in my opinion. But definitely, to me, there's just a little bit too much value in this price tonight. With the Montreal side. Vito, what do you think here? Canadiens, Oilers.
Yeah, guys. Well, I think this is definitely, of course, not Oilers' spot. Returning back from this East Coast road trip where they played some hard teams. I mean, right? And now they're coming back. Well, I think they will come out ready because they know that Habs just now beat Calgary in the next city, next Oilers. So I think that's what they know. So I think they will not take them lightly today. But overall, yeah, with Mr. Mike Smith in the net, it's hard not to look over here. I mean, I think over 6.5 also. I think same like against the Calgary. I mean, this Montreal team, guys, what happened after the coaching change? They just few people talk they play better defense. Few say they're better offense. I just think they're trying more in each of these parts. And there will be still turnovers from that team, okay? There will be still turnovers. There will be still mistakes. But now they also will put the puck in the net. So the opposition will need to put more pucks in the net to win the game here. So, yeah, I think Canadiens definitely get like 3 here today. I think if Oilers want to win, they will need to get 5. So something like same like in Calgary game, I think will happen here tonight. So the over is the look.
I think it could go over as well, to be quite honest. I know Montreal's trying to play better defensively, but good offensive teams. And, you still have McDavid, Draisaitl, Kane on the other side to worry about for Edmonton. Edmonton's going to find their way to some goals probably tonight against Montembeault, but Montreal will get theirs against Smith. And by the way, Smith's numbers, this is what you're getting with a goalie in net on a team that's minus 245, minus 250 tonight. Mike Smith, 5-8 is his record. 3.53 goals against, 893 save percentage this season. He's 5-8. That's 38 win percentage. So you've got a 38 win percentage goalie in his starts this year at minus 250. Think about that for a sec. I mean, my goodness. I mean, that's taking your life into your hands, or bankroll potentially laying minus 250. Like, please, if you like Edmonton, and I'm not saying Edmonton can't win this game. They are still probably better than Montreal, but take the regulation line, take a first period puck line, take a, alternative puck line. Just do something creative. Just whatever you do. If you like Edmonton and you're going to bet Edmonton, don't lay minus 245, minus 250. Get creative. Find another way to go about betting the Oilers tonight if you like that side. Nashville, San Jose. Next up, we've got the Nashville Predators laying about minus 170 here on the road in this game against San Jose. Total 5.5. Across the board. Nashville is going to be very disappointed about that last game against the Seattle Kraken. Got off to a nice start, and then all of a sudden the momentum flipped. Seattle got a consecutive goals in a row, bang, 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 in the second period of that game, and the Predators really never recovered from that point on. So bounce back game maybe for the Nashville Predators here in this game, I would think. San Jose is just one of those teams, I've said this about them a bunch, where if teams are fired up to beat San Jose, they'll beat San Jose. All right. And right now, because they've been obviously terrible since the All-Star break. They are just 2-6 in their 8 games since the break. The 2 wins were the Islanders, 4-3, where James Reimer stood on his head and was terrific in that game against the Islanders. And the other win was that game where he was also very good against the Seattle Kraken, 3-1. But Seattle outplayed San Jose in that game. Just like the Islanders outchanced, had the puck more against the Sharks when they played them, and they lost. So the only 2 wins in the 8 games since the break for San Jose, you would say they're lucky as shit to win them, because they got outplayed by Seattle heavily. They got outplayed by the Islanders heavily. And but yet they won those games, and those are the only 2 games they've won. They haven't been able to beat anybody that's a decent team, a good team, or certainly an excellent team for the most part during this stretch. I think this is a good situation here for Nashville. These are points you got to get when you're trying to solidify a playoff spot. UC Saros hasn't been great lately. I'll admit that. It's been kind of up and down. I mean, he's given up 7 goals in each of his last 2 starts. He's given up 3 or more goals now. When you go back and look, actually, 4, 5, 6 of his last 7 starts, Saros has allowed at least 3 goals. So it is concerning that his play is leveled off a bit. But I think tonight, this is a spot for him to regain some confidence. San Jose's not a gifted offensive team at the moment. And by the way, I should say, talking about Reimer, how good he's played, Reimer's hurt. Reimer's out. Reimer's week to week now with a lower body injury. So you won't see him tonight in net for the Sharks. You're going to see Zach Sawchenko and Alex Stalock, who has basically been journeyman goalie. He's been in the NHL, the AHL. He's been with multiple franchises. And now here's Alex Stalock with San Jose again, which I believe he was with earlier in his career as well, and Sawchenko. I mean, those are the 2 goalies that San Jose's got to run with right now at this point in time. So it is an issue for the Sharks, no question. I like Nashville in regulation. Finally, get to the pick. Nashville here around even money, -105 in regulation. I think they get the job done. This has got to be the spot for them to get back on track, get back in the win column. Vito, we'll start with you on this one. What do you think? Nashville, San Jose.
Yeah, I was checking on this regulation price, to be honest, before the show. I was about to lay it. So, yeah, I think I'm going to lay it as well. So easy. Yeah, well, I mean, it's Stalock in the net, first of all, and the Sharks have not played some good hockey. I mean, they're getting outplayed by every opposition, I think. No, every time they play now after the All-Star break, they're getting outplayed by every opposition. I mean, Carlson is out. Not sure about the Latvian dude, which I played together, Balcers. I think he's also out. So, yeah, they're missing a few guys there. And Hartl, Meyer, those guys been called now. And I think they have been called off and they cannot score anymore. I don't think they will come score here today as well. Only way how to go with this, I think, is Nashville regulation. Well, only thing concern with Nashville is also they haven't really made many expected goals. I checked these stats with Nashville for the last few games. I check 5-on-5 more. I don't check on a power play. So I checked on 5-on-5 and 2 games they were under 1 goal. So that's something to look at. That maybe a little bit made me stay off for now. But yeah, I'm thinking about this game. I was thinking about it during the show. I think with Saros in the net, Nashville should win this game. I mean, they're in a tough the place in the standings in the center, right? Center they are at. So yeah, it's very tough there. I mean, everything is close, and the Sharks are out. Of course, they can make the playoffs if we talk about it, but if we just look at it, I think they're out of the race. It's 20 points until the playoff zone. So, I mean, this miracle should happen to them to make the playoffs. So, I think they're trending now the wrong way here. Nashville is the play in here, I think. In regulation, obviously not. I'm not taking this -170.
Yeah, if there's a game later this year where San Jose somehow wins a game to clinch a playoff spot, we need Al Michaels on the call so he can deliver do you believe in miracles? Because that's what it's going to take for San Jose right now, an utter miracle for them to make the playoffs. And they're just not doing it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, what do you think? Preds, Sharks?
Yeah, I really like this game. And my play in this game, I don't usually do this. This is a situational play rather than an analytical play because my analytics, my numbers tell me do not do this, and this is not the right move. But I like the Sharks in this game. Wow. I'm taking the Sharks here, and for all this, I'm hoping it's Alex Stalock because he's a 34-year-old journeyman goaltender, and I've seen this before, and I've noticed
they rally around the guy. Yeah.
Yes, and I looked back at all the games because I have a bunch of goalie stats. And I was looking at goalies who have played maybe a couple games this year who came in, had a spot start. I'm looking 26 and older because I'm looking for older veteran goaltenders. There were 6, and then I don't know if we can count Michael Hutchinson because he was the backup for Toronto at that time. So 6-0 in these spots. Michael Hauser on the 18th of January for Buffalo against Ottawa. 3-1 win, 1 goal allowed, 44 saves. Garrett Sparks got the win against Washington 3-2. Andrew Hammond, 3-2 win. Keith Kincaid, 3-2 win. Louis Domingue, 2-1 win. And Maxim Legace had a 5-4 win. He was the only goaltender to give up more than 2 goals out of those 6 goaltenders who have made spot starts that are 26 and older. So I'm looking for this veteran goaltender for them to come around and play good in front of him. And I think this is like a 3-1 win for the San Jose Sharks. So that's where I'm looking at for this game. I like the San Jose Sharks. I took them plus 150 to win this game.
That's an interesting angle, and you can't dispute some of these. I remember Garrett Sparks, and he was all teary-eyed and emotional for LA after he beat Washington. You know, he's just that guy toiling in the minors all those years. Got a sniff in the NHL with Toronto, kind of like Stalock. He had a little cup of coffee, Minnesota. He was with Ottawa for a bit. He was with San Jose earlier in his career, back now with the Sharks. I mean, he's been with a bunch of different teams. He was actually with Toronto ever so briefly too, Stalock. And now here he is, maybe getting his chance to start. It's not confirmed, by the way. It's projected that he's going to start. Not confirmed yet. Now, if this is Zach Sawchenko, does that change things for you?
I'm cashing out if it's Zach Sawchenko.
There you go. So if it's Sawchenko, then. But you're right. You mentioned it with Garrett Sparks. You mentioned it with Michael Hauser. You mentioned it with Maxime Lagacé. All these goalies that you just rhymed off, that they've all basically had this start, you know, where they've come into the lineup and they've won games, and look, they've played well, but the team's just collapsing in front of the net. They're doing everything. They're blocking shots. They want to get a win for the guy. It's a good story. Guy that's persevered and worked hard and has found a way to start here in the NHL another game, even if it's by necessity and out of emergency. You know, the players still want to go above and beyond and maybe try to win for him. So maybe that's a little pause for me for Nashville, but I'm still sticking with Nashville, quite honestly. I still am, but I understand why that might get a little scarier for Nashville if maybe they just rally around this Stalock story, if he is indeed in net tonight for the San Jose Sharks. Vito, go ahead. You look like you want to say something.
Not really, actually. Well, I like the Nick's angle here. I mean, talking about these goalies, and if you watch actually the Sharks' previous games, guys, check how they played. Last 3 games have ended 3-1. And the last meeting between these two clubs ended 3-1.
Oh, yeah. I threw $3 down on this. I put at 28-1 for the Sharks to win 3-1.
There you go. Wow, correct score prop, too.
Correct score, 3-1 Sharks.
And, of course, because they're a decent-sized plus 150 home underdog in this game, you really get a good
it was 28-1.
price. Yep, absolutely. You really get a good price there on the correct score there for San Jose 3-1 in this one.
I guess about the props, guys. Did you say something? I don't know, but for the Predators, there is some guys like Tomasino who will be scoring.
Yes. Yep.
Tomasino and Fabro. So those guys might have some. We have to check it which line they're gonna be, how they're gonna play, you know. But those guys be scoring for Predators, guys. And for San Jose, I mean, only Logan Couture, I think, now, because it used to be Meyer and Hertl in the start of the season, but now I think it's only Logan Couture who I see kind of scoring. And for the point prop as an assist, definitely Brett Burns, guys. Check on Brett Burns for more than half an assist in this game, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. That's and he's been shooting the puck a lot more lately too. So overshots on goal for him also could be a decent way to go here in this one. But you're right. For Nashville, the one thing for Nashville is with Saros and maybe the defense not playing quite as well. We've still seen them offensively be pretty solid in recent games. You know, they scored 3 against Carolina, the 6 goals they had against Florida as well. But you're right. Tomasino scored against Seattle in the last game. Tanner Jeannot is always a good prop look for Nashville right now. He's had a nice season for them. Jeannot scored a couple in that game against Florida. And he scored against Carolina as well. Those are good ones, those two. If you're looking for bargains for Nashville, player prop wise, Philip Tomasino and Tanner Jeannot, I think, are the 2 guys you target for the Nashville Predators. All right, final game of this massive card, and it is the best game of the entire day. That's why we put it in the title of the YouTube video. We always try to highlight the big game of the day. This is it. Calgary, Colorado. This should be a great one to wrap up the night. Colorado minus 155, minus 160, home favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. It should be a great one. I'm one of those people in a game like this, especially when you're talking. I know Colorado's home record is off the chart, right? 23-5 at home. They've been absolutely outstanding on home ice. They rarely lose here in Denver. The last time they lost here in Denver was that game against, I believe it was Dallas recently. And then Arizona also beat them at home before the break. But it was Arizona and it was Dallas that were able to pick up a couple of wins here in Denver over the last month or so. But other than that, they've obviously been great at home. Both of these teams off a loss. I think both of them fell into the same trap, if you will. A big, much anticipated Western Conference showdown here. And Calgary lost their game prior to this against Montreal, and Colorado lost their game prior to this against Arizona. So it'll be interesting to see Calgary 12-2, their last 14 games. Colorado just playing every bit as well at the moment. It's just a terrific hockey game on paper. Darcy Kemper in net for Colorado. We'd certainly expect Jacob Markstrom in between the pipes for Calgary, even though it hasn't been officially confirmed yet. This is probably more of a prop game for me than a side or a total, because I expect good efforts from both teams. Colorado off a loss is not the Calgary off a loss isn't strong, but Colorado off a loss in particular, it's almost like that. Yeah, do not bet against Colorado off a loss for me. That's how incredible they've been in that particular role. They've been very good off a single defeat this year. I mean, losing streaks have been few and far between here for the Avalanche. And you look at their recent games, go all the way back to, my goodness, December 4th, lost to Ottawa, beat Philly the next game, lost to Nashville, beat Anaheim the next game, lost to Nashville again, beat Arizona the next game, lost to Arizona, beat Tampa Bay the next game, lost to Dallas, beat Vegas the next game, lost at Boston, beat Detroit 5-2 in the next game. Just that track record off a single loss for the Avalanche, it is pristine. It's terrific. It's one of those track records where, for me, it's almost do not bet against this team when they're off a loss, the Colorado Avalanche. But do I want to lay minus 150? No, not against a team as good as Calgary. So I'm going to look more at props here in this game. Lindholm continues to just be red hot for the Flames. Tyler Toffoli, in games of this magnitude, he often shows up. He's been pretty consistent offensively for the Flames. You could look at those two from a goal scorer prop or point standpoint for them. Mangiapane does a lot of damage on the road, could even sprinkle on him. Shillington, who's a guy that's really been jumping up into the play for Calgary as a blue liner, and he has all of a sudden, been more of an aggressive defenseman. Keep an eye on him. For Colorado, definitely you've got the big trio, McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, healthy and intact here, which is good to see. But keep your eyes on Burakovsky for Colorado. I've talked about him a couple of days ago. He is a streaky scorer. He can go like he did, what was it, 12, 14, 16 games straight without scoring a goal. Well, now he's got goals in 3 of the last 4 games. He is a streak scorer. When Burakovsky's ice cold, you don't get involved. You can't touch his props with a 10-foot pole when he's struggling. But when he starts to heat up, you can really ride him at that point and ride the goal scorer props involving Burakovsky, and I think that's not a bad way to go tonight with him. I know McKinnon, and Rantanen and Landeskog, they get all the headlines, but Burakovsky, a little bit more value in the props with him, so could definitely look at that tonight in this game as well with this Flames-Avalanche game. Should be a great one. Looking forward to it. Maybe even I could see actually both teams to score in the first period and then things settle down. I could see that because I'm back and forth on the total. I could see it being low scoring and maybe both teams get a goal early and then it settles in. I'm tempted to by that both teams to score in the first period in this game, because the one thing I do expect to see in a game of this magnitude is both teams really wanting to get off to a good start, especially with both of them off a loss, and you can get plus 130 with both teams to score in the first period of this game. I like that one. I'll make that an official play. Both teams to score first period, Colorado and Calgary, plus 130. Vito, what do you think here, Calgary, Colorado?
Yeah, well, this is a fantastic game for tonight, guys. I mean, these are the 2 best teams at the moment in West, I would say. And both teams coming off a loss, which is funny. They both lost to bottom feeders. And I think, one thing about this game, guys, they're going to play after 1 week again. And they're going to play again in Colorado. And in that game, Flames will be on a back-to-back. I know, I already checked. So I might stay just away from this game and play something next week when it's going to be a little bit easier to understand what's going to happen. This is the first meeting between these 2 clubs. I can easily see that this can go over. It can go under. We have seen how Colorado plays with the top teams, it usually goes under. It was like 3-2 against Tampa in a second period, and then it ended like 3-2. That's what Ian was talking about. He can see that. I also can see that they get off the hot start. We get some scoring chances, moments in the first period, and the second and third, it will be more quietly there. So hard to predict anything, guys. Two top teams, don't want to mess around with them. I mean, I've been playing a lot of Flames, been winning on them. Don't want to go with Flames as well. I think Avs are good off a loss. It's going to be a perfect game to watch. I think it's going to be interesting. I don't want to lay any wagers, so I need to stress during the game. I want to see how the both teams actually play here. From a player prop wise, for Flames, I mean, many guys been scoring, but what you can take a look, I mean, I also mentioned from the forwards guys, Toffoli, Mangiapane, Lindholm, I think, and Goudreau as well. That's I mean, everybody knows that, I think. And yeah, for the Avs, I also have noted down Burakovsky. So I think that's a way to look here today, because I have Burakovsky and Makar for the assist, guys, definitely. He's been collecting those assists like it's nothing. So if you can get maybe against Calgary, a half a point assist for Makar, that's the way to go.
No doubt. He is a point machine, point producing machine. Cale Makar from the back end on that blue line for Colorado. There's no question. And even though this game will have some goals, I don't know if it'll have a boatload of goals, because these two teams are capable defensively. These two goalies, Kemper and Markstrom, when they're on their game, they're very capable. But in a game like this, where Cale Makar is just involved in so much of the offense, I think a plus 200 for him over 1.5 points is not bad. Because if Colorado scores even just 2 or 3 goals in this game, there's a good chance Makar's in on multiple goals. He drives that much of the offense for Colorado from that blue line. It's always a consideration, especially in a spotlight game like this. Nick, what do you think here, Calgary, Colorado?
I think for the next couple of weeks, the Colorado Avalanche are a sell team for me. I think that this team is going to regress. They're not. I don't know if they're the best team in hockey, to be completely honest. I think that they've been gifted with some really nice scheduling in the first half, decent rest in between games, and we're going to see them be tested here the next few weeks, where they have multiple games where they have 1 day rest, 1 day rest, 1 day rest, 1 day rest, and the injuries are going to add up for them. They are a goalie injury away from being absolutely screwed. And I think Calgary can expose their goaltending tonight. I like Calgary money line. I got it at plus 135, and I took a half unit sprinkle here, hoping that maybe Calgary gets an empty netter at the end of the game and covers a puck line minus 1.5 at plus 285. I know Colorado is really good after a loss, and you don't want to, but I think this is a spot here where the Calgary Flames, I think right now could be close to, if not a better overall team than Colorado. And I don't think that this should be a minus 160 for Colorado at home. I get it. Yes, they bounce back off of losses, but Calgary can do the same thing here off of a bad loss in their last game against Montreal. And I think Montreal is still the better overall team than Arizona. So they're coming off of a loss. It was a better loss, if you want to say, but Calgary is a team I'm going to be looking to back a little bit here, and Colorado is not. I think you're going to get some decent value fading Colorado the next few weeks here as their games start to add up and they don't play an absolute cupcake schedule at home. So I think that this is a spot here where Colorado potentially loses by multiple goals here. Give me Calgary plus 135, and I sprinkled half unit at that puck line plus 285.
There you go. So an alternative puck line plus 285 minus 1.5, along with money line plus 130 to plus 135 in most spots here for the Calgary Flames. I agree. That's good value. And look, they've gone 4-0 after a loss, Calgary, in their last 4 games off a loss. 4-0. Their last 4 games off a loss. They had a 4-game losing streak, I believe, back in January, and since then, 4-0 off a loss for the Flames. So they've been good bouncing back too. Great game. I would be with, like, if you're going to take the money line at this price, you got to take Calgary. If you want to take Colorado, you got to look at other ways. First period puck line.
Regulation.
Yeah. You got to be. I wouldn't lay minus 150 either with Colorado, minus 155 in this spot against a team that's playing well too. Calgary, team that's coming off their own loss and setback that they didn't like. Daryl Sutter didn't like the defensive game at all from Calgary. We'll see if it's better. And usually a mad Daryl Sutter equals a better performance next game from his team. You go all the way back to when he coached the Kings to those Stanley Cups. When he's not happy, team usually responds the next game.
Yeah, I think Flames maybe even have a better goaltending, to be honest, maybe at the moment.
Oh, absolutely, they have better
Denver's also-
goaltending. Absolutely, they do. Markstrom is a top 3, if not top 2, in the Vezina Trophy candidate here.
But
And also, if you're feeling, if you're
he was kind of bad, man. The goal that Hoffman scored, bro, between his arm, that's not something you want to see from Markstrom. But everybody gets bad games once in a while.
And if you want to sweat in a little bit in this game, Colorado team total under 3.5 -115.
Ooh.
There you go. A good look there, at least definitely from a value standpoint. I'm looking at the results now. We know their base numbers, right? Kemper 2.47, 919. Markstrom 2.17, 925. So he's got better goals against, better save percentage, Markstrom, than Darcy Kemper. I'm looking at the GSAA numbers now. Goals saved above average for these two guys. Markstrom's 4th in the NHL. 36.31 goals saved above average for Jacob Markstrom. Darcy Kemper not far behind, though. Markstrom's 4th in goals saved above average this season. Darcy Kemper is 9th at 26.5 goals saved above average. So these are two goalies that have had great seasons overall. It's just recently with Kemper, there's been a little bit more chinks in the armor. That's the term I'm looking for, yeah. But both of them have great numbers statistically, especially the GSAA. Both of them have been very good. So, great hockey team.
Top teams should have good numbers, I think.
When you play with Colorado's defense in front of you, they're really good right now. Colorado's been really good at hiding their goaltending right now with their defensive play. Once you get those games where they play 7 games, 8 games in 14, 15 days, it's not going to be that way. So.
And there's an element of that with Calgary, too, because they've played just terrific on the blue line's been great lately for the Calgary Flames. That's helped out Markstrom quite a bit. So it's why these teams are good. They can score. They've got good blue lines. They can tighten it up when they need to. The goalies are good. It's a great hockey game. Can't wait to see how it plays out tonight, Flames and Avalanche, to wrap up the Saturday card. Great stuff with Vito and Nicholas Earl. A great show. We went an hour and a half. We usually do go about 90 minutes on a long Saturday card, but it's worth it to give you great analysis on a huge Saturday slate. We want to remind you, DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NBA and NHL. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still take your shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Basketball Contest. DraftKings giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA and NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Minimum $5 deposit. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. All right, best bets to wrap up the Saturday show. Nick, we'll start with you. Best bet.
Yeah, I'm bouncing between two here, between the Sharks and the Flames. I'm going to go with the Flames here, plus 135 against the Colorado Avalanche tonight. I really like this spot for the Flames with a close second being the Sharks there.
All right, Calgary, plus 135 against Colorado. Best bet for Nicholas Earl for Saturday slate. Vito, best bet.
Yeah, I'll have two. I cannot decide. All right, so I will make my best bet as give me Toronto in regulation. I think they come out ready in this hockey night in Canada here in this game, yeah. So another game, guys, just maybe someone who is curious, that would be definitely these Hawks and Flyers over 6. That would be my second one.
All right, there we go. Toronto in regulation, you can get as low as minus 120 in some books with the Leafs in regulation against the Vancouver Canucks. And I like that bet as well, but it's not going to be my best bet. I'm going to go with Vito. You mentioned it. Chicago, Philadelphia. Good call on your part. You knew I was going in that direction. I am going in that direction. Let's see if we can cash a winner before dinner on the ice with the Blackhawks and Flyers over 6, minus 115 for my best bet on this Saturday card. Lankinen and Jones. That is not Marty Brodeur versus Patrick Roy. That's putting it mildly. So I expect goals in bunches. Look, both teams actually going to come into this game thinking, you know what? We can win this game. Let's go after it. Let's get after it. And I expect both teams to have that approach. So Chicago, Philly over 6 for my best bet for this Saturday NHL card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to Nicholas Earl for joining us here on this Saturday. We'll do this all season. We'll open up the show. Anyone that's a viewer or listener wants to join us on the Ice Guys show, just let me know, and we'll try to get you on the show at some point. Vito will be back with me tomorrow on Sunday as well, breaking down the NHL card. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us live on YouTube. Hit the like button on the way out. For Nicholas Earl, for Vito, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week as well, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. Download the podcast and listen to it if you can't watch the show live. For Nick Earl and Vito, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on Sunday for another edition of the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.